Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Create a Crowdfunding Movement that Inspires Donors to Do More Than Just Give. We've got a terrific lineup of speakers today. A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get into the agenda and introductions. If you have any audio issues during today's webinar, you can dial in by phone by choosing the More button in the upper right corner of your screen and select Switch to Phone. Also, to get a copy of today's presentation sent directly to your phone right now, you can text MOVEMENT, all one word, to 51555. That's MOVEMENT, M-O-V-E-M-E-N-T, MOVEMENT to 51555, and we'll text a link to the presentation straight to your phone. So in case you're traveling and just dialed in by phone and not able to see the presentation, you can follow along by clicking along in the slides that we'll send to you. You'll also see on the left side of your screen a chat. You can feel free to type questions to the presenters at any time during today's presentation. We will be holding about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the webinar for questions, but do feel free to type questions into the chat as they come up for you. We will be collecting as many of the questions as we can and addressing all of them if we can during our time at the end of the webinar today. We are excited to have a great lineup of speakers. We're going to be going over this fantastic agenda. We'll be talking about the crowdfunding gold rush for nonprofit organizations with Salvador Briggman from CrowdCrux, 5 ways to activate a crowdfunding movement with Farra Trompeter. We will be talking about crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising logistics essentials with Jeremy Koenig from MobileCause, and we'll be doing our Q&A with our speakers. So here's our fabulous lineup of speakers. Again, Salvador Briggman from CrowdCrux. He's a blogger, podcaster, and author. We have Farra Trompeter, who's the vice president of Big Duck, a consulting firm for nonprofits. And of course, our very own Jeremy Koenig, creative director at MobileCause.
Next up, we're going to be speaking about the crowdfunding gold rush for nonprofit organizations. I'm pleased to welcome Salvador Briggman from CrowdCrux. Welcome, Salvador.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm hailing in today from Brooklyn, New York, and if you haven't heard of me before, I run the blog crowdcrux.com. Been writing that since 2012. I also have a podcast in iTunes called Crowdfunding Demystified, and last year I wrote the book Nonprofit Crowdfunding Explained. A lot of people really love that book, so actually recently I came out with an Audible book, an audio accompaniment to that book. So in this section, we're going to be teasing a little bit of the different things that I've discovered about crowdfunding since having a lot of people on the podcast, since have written and learned just a tremendous amount about nonprofit crowdfunding, and also go into some of the statistics here. You know, I think that crowdfunding, while a lot of people have heard of it, it's not really on many people's radars. And I honestly think that you guys, the people attending this webinar, are in the minority here. A lot of nonprofits are not out there just consuming information, are not out there looking at the different new technologies, and we live in just an incredible time now. You know, we have smartphones. Even in the last 10 years, more and more people have had smartphones, more and more new technologies have come out, and it's almost kind of cool that we've seen so many people adopt these things, and even in the first world, there's been lots of wealth generation, et cetera, lots of jumps in productivity. But one of the sort of sad things about this is we've seen a lot of third world countries, unfortunately, fall behind. You know, they haven't adopted these technologies. They don't even have access to it. You know, these are very intelligent people. These are very hardworking people. You know, putting aside political instability, they have everything they need. But because someone has a smartphone or because someone has a computer, they're able to do more with less because of that technology. And one of the things that I notice is this same thing is happening within our own country, within first world countries. We're having nonprofits who, because they're using the latest and greatest technology, because they're using the best fundraising practices, they're seeing tremendous results. And those nonprofits that are still leaning on the older practices as sort of a crutch, whether that's, direct mail, whether that's, telephone, picking up the telephone, et cetera, they're sort of falling behind. and they're almost living in the third world of what I would call nonprofit fundraising. So we're going to get started here and talk a little bit about how the game is changing for nonprofits. And the first thing I want to say here is a lot of these nonprofits who are having such a hard time, the future is really bleak because grant money isn't what it used to be. You know, people are not responding to direct mail. They're tuning out. You paid a bunch of money for a TV advertisement maybe, and people are just tuning that out, and they've just come to expect what marketing is. But at the same time, you have younger people who are engaging in different social channels. You know, I'm a millennial myself. In a very short span of time, I was able to reach millions of people via my blog and over 100,000 people via my podcast. And I'm not special or anything, but I'm just going where people are nowadays. And I want to share a little bit of these things that I've learned from the for-profit world in terms of marketing, so you can then apply these things to what I call crowdfunding or peer-to-peer fundraising. This is sort of the culmination of all of these things that I was just mentioning, whether it's smartphones, whether it's the web, online video has gotten so much better, social media. Crowdfunding in 2012 was sort of the peak or the pivotal moment when all of these different things came together. So now you can actually raise money from the crowd. You can share your story with thousands of people on Facebook. People who don't even know you can discover a video that you put out for your fundraising campaign. It's a really cool time. And honestly, I think it is the easiest time to actually raise money for a nonprofit. It literally is the golden age of fundraising. And when I say that, a lot of people who are used to sort of like the tried and true methods, you know, the things that they are very comfortable with, tend to get a little bit nervous. But the one thing I do want to sort of emphasize here is that people have not changed. You know, the core human person still wants to give money. They still want to help people. They still connect with stories. The main thing that has changed is how they access their information and where they go for fun, where they go to consume information. They're no longer tuning into your story if it's maybe on television, but they are tuning into it if it's in their Facebook feed or if it's in their Instagram feed. And that's the main thing that has changed. And that's why what I'm going to go into, a lot of the new ways that you can engage those types of people. And in particular, baby boomers, you know, millennials, et cetera. These are the types of people that you can go after with these techniques. So there are two basic models of crowdfunding for a nonprofit organization. And I really want to break these two down because when we say crowdfunding, we usually just assume all of these different types of fundraising, and they're actually very different. And the reason that they're different is your responsibilities as a nonprofit vary from model to model. So first of it, I call it traditional crowdfunding. So a traditional crowdfunding campaign, you have a fundraising goal, you have a fundraising duration, you're raising money for something. You've probably seen these in the news, you might have seen these promoted on Facebook, et cetera. There's a single event where you are raising money, and you yourself, the nonprofit, are doing all of the marketing for that campaign. You know, you're talking about it, you're sharing stories, you're telling and educating people why this cause matters to them, et cetera. That is a traditional crowdfunding campaign. Then there is peer-to-peer fundraising. So peer-to-peer fundraising is sort of a segment of overall crowdfunding. And you can think of this, if you put on an event, let's just say like Relay for Life, that's sort of a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. And your role as the nonprofit is very different. So rather than doing all of the marketing for this, you're actually engaging very select people who are very active in your organization, and they're going out there to their friends and their family, and they're spreading the word for you. So in the Relay for Life example, these are people that are running around the track, or these are people that are participating in the event. And they're going out there and raising money for, say, cancer research from their friends and their family. They're doing the marketing on your behalf. It's your then job to educate these people as to how to do that, what messages to share with their friends and family, and sort of hold their hand along the way. And peer-to-peer fundraising has actually just exploded in recent years. This is something that many, many more nonprofits are using this for events. And also, I honestly think that this could really surpass traditional crowdfunding just because it is very team-based and team oriented. So we're going to go into a little bit of that. So like I said, with a traditional crowdfunding campaign, you have a fundraising goal or a target amount that you're trying to hit. This is the amount that you're trying to raise money for. A lot of the times, this sort of goal setting actually motivates people a lot when they come to the page and they see that their donation is actually moving that fundraising meter along. And it's getting really close to the goal. They're seeing the results of their actions, or they're seeing how it's progressing over time. And it can be exciting. You're sort of participating in this fundraising event online, and it's really cool. I think that all of this, honestly, is just leveraging what might traditionally be a little bit more hands-on. You're using technology to leverage this whole fundraising game. So people are seeing this. They don't necessarily have to know you. You don't have to be there for them to donate and give money to you. You don't have to be there for them to share this on their Facebook wall. This is all very leveraged with the internet. In terms of the fundraising duration, you are raising money for a specific amount of time. Could be 30 days, could be 60 days, could be 45 days. This amount of time is when people can actually donate to the crowdfunding campaign. This is how long they have to get their donation in. And a lot of people will say, well, why would I do that? You know, I obviously want to raise money on a continuous basis. Why would I do that? The reason is that it really prompts urgency. And I'm going to get to that in just a little bit, but it's a really key lever for urgency, which actually gets people to take action and to donate to your campaign. And finally, some nonprofits will give rewards or perks, things that people gain access to once they pledge or donate to this campaign. So maybe that's an invitation to a fundraising gala, or that's some sort of cool swag, or access to something that you're giving to sort of thank the donors for actually contributing. In terms of the, we'll go slide here, in terms of the peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, as I said, your role here is mainly education. You're teaching your volunteers and the people that are going out there and raising funds from their friends and family how to do that, whether that's sample emails, sample social media messages, even how to bring up the topic, how to do it in a non-spammy way or a way that's going to turn off their friends. You are the leader here. You're setting the tone. You're telling them exactly how to raise money. And don't take that lightly. You know, a lot of people think that means that it's very hands-off and like you're just collecting the cash. No, you have to motivate these people. You have to make them excited to go out and spread the word about this event or about this cause. You have to hold even classes, you know, physical classes or a webinar of some sorts to educate these people and to get them amped up and excited to spread the message about this event. It's a little bit more of like a management role, if you think. And it's also inspiration here. When these core donors do engage in this way, they are far more committed to your nonprofit because they did this event. You can talk about, oh yeah, do you remember when we did the Relay for Life last year? It's an event in their own life. And because they're investing in you and investing in this event, they come to respect your nonprofit much more. They come to be way more engaged, and their friends and their family naturally are actually going to be way more perceptive or way more receptive actually to the messages that they're sharing because they're friends and family. If it was just you trying to share and blast these messages, they probably wouldn't listen as much. And that's really the power of peer-to-peer fundraising. So this, we're really getting into the meat here. And these are a lot of the tactics that I talk about in my audiobook, Nonprofit Crowdfunding Explained. This is on Audible, also on Amazon. If you want to check it out, it's at crowdcrux.com/nonprofitaudio. The biggest thing that many nonprofits that I've seen or that I've worked with have trouble with is storytelling. And that's because they think, why would anyone care what I have to say online? Why would they care about my story? You know, why would someone take 2 seconds of their day to actually read a story? And the reason that storytelling is so important is it actually creates a tremendous sense of empathy. We tend to have empathy with characters in stories. We have empathy with the person, the hero undergoing a journey, and it allows us to sort of put ourselves in the shoes of someone else. If you're trying to tell your friend how amazing this event was, you don't just say, you know, very logically, this is what happened. You tell a story so they can put themselves in that moment and they can feel the emotions that you felt. You know, you say, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then they said this, and like, it gets you in the moment of whatever it is that's happening. So storytelling is actually what you use to transmit the emotions that you feel regarding a cause. You know, you think this should be the top cause on everyone's mind. You transmit those emotions with a story. And usually what nonprofits will actually do is they'll tell statistics. You know, they'll share a bunch of statistics saying how this cause is so important because this this number of people are affected by this and thousands of people every year. People just tune out. You know, it's not something that's emotionally engaging to them. They can't really picture it. If you have story, video, and even just compelling, things that you're including on your campaign, it really ropes people into the experience and makes them feel the emotions that you feel about that same cause. I think it also comes back to the fact that the whole goal here is to get people to take notice of what you're doing. There are so many nonprofits out there. There's so many different social media posts even nowadays. How do you get people's attention? A really big way is through social proof. One of the great things about a nonprofit crowdfunding campaign is other people who are participating can actually see, oh, X number of my friends gave money to this. I wonder what this charity is. Like, I should check it out. Or look at all these people who care about this cause. I also associate myself with this cause. You know, your identity is some way tied to that. I'm actually going to take a second to watch this video. Like, it seems pretty cool. People are loving it. They're donating money. Why not? Obviously, this is a credible nonprofit if people are donating money to it. Storytelling and this concept of social proof allows people to sort of lower their defensive barriers a bit so that they're not just saying, oh, this is a nonprofit just out for my money, or oh, this is just another organization. You know, and we've all heard those things that certain nonprofits out there, you raise, say, $1 and maybe like 10 cents of that dollar actually goes to the cause. People are skeptical nowadays. You have to show them how they are making an impact, and ideally directly. There's no better way to do that than when someone actually donates. They see the fundraising meter go up. They see that their pledge was calculated. They see that their donation is going to cause X, Y, and Z. They see all of their other friends that are also engaged in this campaign. It's really just an incredible experience. And the last point that I want to say here is it is, you know, we talk about raising money, and some campaigns maybe raise $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. They might not seem like large amounts, but what you're doing here is you're building a relationship. It is the first step in a relationship, and we all know that we tend to be consistent with the actions that we take, even if they're small actions. If we donate $10 to something, we're more likely to donate more money if that nonprofit does something good with our money, if they cause change, if they show how this donation enabled them to do X, Y, or Z. It's building a relationship. You can begin to build this critical core mass of donors who know who you are, who trust you, who like what you do, and know that you get results. And that's really the sort of the crux of building a very responsive donor list here. My last slide, I have some statistics here. If you want to take a look, you can just glance through these. I think the number one that I want to highlight, and there's sort of two here. First of all, the fact that team fundraising pages raise 3 to 4 times more donations than individual pages. And this just goes back to peer-to-peer fundraising. Peer-to-peer fundraising is really growing, has a lot of momentum. And when you have a team that is assembled, that are all in line with the same communications, that are all as excited as you are, it's far easier to raise money with crowdfunding. The other thing that I want to say here is that 67% of crowdfunding happens on a mobile device. It's really scary, just the way that our entire landscape is changing. What the computer was, 5 years ago, now is your smartphone. People are discovering their news via smartphone. It's very important that you take that into consideration when you're doing your marketing, and also when you choose to go with a platform to raise money. They should be mobile optimized. They should be a really beautiful campaign pitch when people are viewing it from your mobile device. But finally, if you do want more tips, more advice, I do have a lot of information in my audiobook, Nonprofit Crowdfunding Explained. It is now on Audible, so you guys can check it out. And it's also, I think, free if you sign up for one of the 30-day free trials with Audible, and you can hear me read the entire book. I'm very passionate and enthusiastic about this cause, so I think that you'll like it. And I think you're also going to like a lot of the other information that we have to share on this webinar.
Our next speaker, Farra Trompeter, is the vice president at Big Duck, a communications firm that works exclusively with nonprofits. Big Duck helps nonprofits raise money, recruit for programs, and increase visibility through smart communications. They've helped hundreds of local, national, and international organizations. Farra also serves as board chair for the nonprofit N10 Network, an organization that believes technology can revolutionize social change. She's a frequent speaker around the country, training nonprofit staff and board members on branding and marketing, online fundraising, and donor engagement. She is also a part-time faculty member at New York University Wagner Graduate School of Public Service, where she teaches classes about online engagement and strategic communications for nonprofits. Farra holds an MS degree in nonprofit management from the New School for Public Engagement. You can tweet with Farra at Farra. So now I'd like to introduce Farra. She's going to talk to us about 5 ways to activate a crowdfunding movement at your nonprofit organization. Welcome, Farra. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm really excited to dig into this topic, and I hope these 5 ways will give you something you can either try for the first time or build on with what you're doing. And feel free to fire your questions away, and I will do my best to keep up with them. So I just want to start with one quick tip, which is making it easy. It's really important to make sure that if you're going to ask donors to, in fact, become fundraising champions for you, to be the ones leading these campaigns, you've got to make it as easy as possible for them to participate. Crowdfunding takes lots of different names and definitions. Sometimes we think about it when it is trying to raise for a specific program or product. Sometimes it's for an entire organization, or it's tied to a moment like an organization's anniversary, or an event like a marathon or a walk. Often they are referred to as peer-to-peer fundraising, and the idea is that specifically in that name, it is one person asking their network, whether it's their friends, their colleagues, their family members, the random people they're friends with on Facebook and they don't even remember how they know them anymore, getting them to invest in an organization or a cause that they care about. And the beauty of crowdfunding is that you are getting your donors to really, in fact, become an army of fundraisers for you. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And if you want those champions to be able to create a great campaign for you, you need to make it easy for them to be ambassadors. And you want to make sure that it's easy for them to change their photo from maybe the campaign photo to their own personal picture, to write a message as to why they're doing it, to potentially change the goal and create updates as they're making progress along the way, to make it personal with other photos or videos. And the idea is that they are making the campaign their own, while in fact that campaign is connected to your bigger mission. If you're familiar with Big Duck, you probably know that we are really impassioned about using your brand to raise visibility, create change, and raise money for your organization. We have a process we do for lots of organizations called brand raising. And really, though a crowdfunding campaign at best becomes a campaign of the people by the people, ideally it eventually ladders back to your organization, because you want those donors, the friends of the fundraising champions, to have a connection to your organization, so that when eventually you ask them to give again, they are more likely to listen, or you ask them to take a different action, sign a pledge, answer a quiz, take a poll, show up at an event you're having. So it's important when you're doing these crowdfunding campaigns to make it easy for your donors to give, and frankly also to make it easy for the people who give to those campaigns to feel connected to your organization and understand who's behind it. Second tip I want to share is to really get your board involved. I think with a lot of these campaigns, we sometimes think about just our donors or our super activists or our coworkers as the ones who are going to make the initial pages, but crowdfunding can be a really powerful tool to equip your board with and get them to become fundraisers for you. It's also important to get your board to buy in if it's really going to be a big campaign for your organization. Having your board understand what it is, feel like they have in fact helped shape the plan for it, and have them even set up some pages. I've led a training for a board where I literally walked them through how to create a page and showed them how easy it was. And then we created a little competition within the board to see who could raise the most money, and who could get the most new donors, who could get the most people tweeting using the hashtag, whatever it might be. It's important for the board to feel invested in all the fundraising you're doing, but crowdfunding can be a really easy way for them to post a message on their social network of choice, or to email their colleagues and their friends and ask them to give to the organization. In some ways, it might even be easier than having them sign a bunch of direct mail letters that many organizations do. And part of getting the board to buy in, obviously, is explaining why you're doing this and what it's for. But again, having them help you set goals. And goals aren't just for how much money we're raising, but it might be how many new people we're bringing in, or are we getting people to commit to being recurring donors? Are we getting a lot of people, new people to support us or talk about us in social media? Are we, in fact, are they each board member, maybe they're creating a team and they become their own captains and they're recruiting other people to join their team. So getting the board to feel excited about this and feel part of it from the beginning can be really powerful for organizations. And like I said, can actually be a really easy way to help board members who might be sort of shy or not have the time, maybe too shy to call people, may not have the time to write letters, to simply create a page and share it on social media or share it with their networks through email or other means. The third tip I want to share, I mentioned briefly, this idea of building an army of fundraising champions. The way to get your campaign successful is to have more people out there asking, right? So we've made it easy for people to do it. Our board and everyone in the organization understands the goals. Now what we want to do is get more people out there being askers and being part of the campaign, right? This is sort of organizing 101. And as part of recruiting people to become champions with us, we need to make it easy for them to participate. And the way to do that is to give them sample messages, sample tweets, sample Facebook posts, sample emails, sample things that they can take, an Instagram photo that they can post, something they can easily do to share. And you want to give things that will work for everyone, and then maybe even give them things they can customize that help talk about the campaign, invite people to donate. And along the way, you should celebrate those champions, which I'll talk more about in a moment, and make them really feel like they are doing something. They are the key to the success of this campaign. The more they buy into it, feel like their updates, their edits, their reach out is really helping drive the success of the campaign, the more likely it's going to do well. And we know from lots of fundraising studies that a lot of times people donate to something because they feel good about it and they want to tell their friends they're doing it. So you're actually, by giving a sort of platform for your donors or your advocates to become fundraisers, you're allowing them an opportunity to influence their network, and that in fact actually makes them feel good, and you're giving them a chance to create something and be part of something bigger than themselves. Fourth step, really making sure to keep the campaign alive. The best campaigns I have seen are campaigns where the organization who's hosting it doesn't just set it and forget it. They don't just invite the champions, give them that toolkit, and then hope for the best. They are weekly, if not daily, letting people know what's happening, creating milestones along the way. Let's say that campaign is trying to reach $10,000 or $100,000. Along the way, they're letting them know as they are reaching those milestones. Those milestones might be numbers. It might be number of pages created. You might recognize individual fundraisers and say, wow, I just saw you got your 10th donation. That was awesome. Keep going. The more, or saying, wow, I just saw that you changed your picture and you went out of your way to really make this campaign your own. And letting other champions see what each other are doing, highlighting someone and showing that as an example. You could even, as we said here in this note, create a competition. See who gets the most donors in a certain day, 24-hour period, or in a week, or in a month, or whatever, however long the campaign lasts. The point, though, is to keep the campaign alive. Even if the campaign, just has a small window, every day through that window or every week, you want to keep people feeling like they're part of it, and do that by sending them updates, encouraging them to do more, highlighting great examples where people have really gone the extra mile to make this campaign successful. And one tip that's noted here is, if it comes too much to send an email to everyone, just make a 30-second video. Make sure you, in fact, highlight a sort of coach or a captain of the campaign who's going out there and becomes somebody that it's not just you're doing this campaign for X organization, but, Captain or Coach Farra is rallying us on to raise more and to do more and create a personality and someone who's reaching out to those champions, or divide up the champions if you've got a lot of people, so that they have a real connection to someone within the organization. Finally, there's lots of best practices out there for crowdfunding. We're going to hear about some more in a moment. But be creative. It's okay to break the mold. to try something new. Lots of people have had good times getting people to try new things. One thing that some organizations do is, especially if the campaign is going to connect to an in-person event or connect to other things that they're doing, they send out swag, stuff we all get, to get people excited. That might be a decal or a t-shirt, or even an online profile picture where I can change just to show people that I'm doing this campaign and I'm having fun. The last thing I want to mention here is that, yes, there are the crowdfunding campaigns your organization hosts, but you could also encourage your donors to create campaigns of their own. Make it easy for them to dedicate their birthday to you, or have them celebrate their big anniversary connected to your anniversary. If it's your organization's 100th anniversary coming up, maybe you do a campaign where you get 100 champions to try and raise money for the organization. You know, you can think these things don't have to be tied to offline run, walk, ride, though often they are. They can be tied to so much more. And, you know, I think it can be great to just try something and see what works. And if you're worried about it, do a small experiment, try it with a small group of people around a very focused time and see what happens, and then try and build. And the last thing I would say is, if you have not done a crowdfunding campaign yet, try to at least give to one or become a fundraiser for one, just to see what the experience is like. And even if you've had, it's always great to remember to walk in the other person's shoes, and that's both as the fundraiser and as the person who gives to the campaign. And so my bonus tip there is to do it yourself, and to make sure that you're always testing your campaign as it goes, that all the messaging is working, and that when somebody gives, the information is correct on the receipt. You're encouraging the person who gives to a campaign to then share it with others. And just great, best of luck to you. And I hope that these 5 ways will help you activate a crowdfunding movement at your organization. Please keep your questions coming. There's some great stuff going. I look forward to continuing to talk with you, and we'll answer more questions in the chat Q&A. Let me turn it back to Chris.
Thank you so much, Farra. And again, everyone, thank you so much for all of your questions. Keep them coming. We will get to them in about 15 minutes or so. So please do submit them. And again, a quick reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will be sending out the link to the recording along with the slides, so you can share them with some colleagues, board members, and others. Next up, I would like to introduce my colleague, Jeremy Koenig, who's going to talk about crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising essentials. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Chris, and special thanks to Farra and Salvador. You are tremendous experts in the world of crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising. I am so pumped and excited to go out and do this for myself. That being said, I'm excited to share with you today what we believe to be the most important essentials of running crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. So let's go ahead and get started. The most important part of setting up your crowdfunding campaign is your landing page. You can see here our new template, which I'm going to specifically talk about a lot of the components that you see on your screen. The most important part of a crowdfunding campaign, believe it or not, is your video. Crowdfunding campaigns that are promoted by video raise 4 times as much donations as those that do not have a video. It is so important that on this landing page, you're able to easily collect donations, recognize donors, sign up fundraisers, collaborate with teams, and track results. If you look on screen, you can see an example of our progress bar, where you can see the total raise and the counts of donors and fundraisers, and then the huge buttons that say make a donation, become a fundraiser, as well as you can see the profiles of the top performing fundraisers, as well as there's a tab to join teams and to see walls of donors and make comments, et cetera, et cetera. Our pro tip here is to promote a text-to keyword at live events and a URL short link like bit.ly across your online channels. I'd like to take a minute to talk about this. So, for example, if Constance is going to promote her crowdfunding campaign on television or radio or at a live event, if she supplements her call to action with text live free to 71777 or go to her website, she will actually receive twice as much donations. And so one of the cool things that MobileCause offers is the ability for every individual fundraiser to have their own keyword. Very powerful. Another essential component is that your landing page and all of your crowdfunding pages for that matter, it's really important that they're beautiful and elegant and robust on a PC view, but then on a smartphone, very easy, very to the point, very descriptive of your campaign. The second essential is a fundraising thermometer. One of the latest MobileCause innovations is now you can actually take all revenue sources, whether those be online, submitted through peer-to-peer fundraising pages, or maybe it's matching gifts provided by companies, or checks and cash, or payments, or any type of revenues that you receive for your campaign. You can actually total and summarize in real time on a fundraising thermometer. So here you can see that Finding Balance had a goal of $100,000, and they ended up raising $112,875 from 412 donors. And as those individuals made donations in all those different ways, they actually appear in real time. Incredible tool. At the end of the day, fundraising is about relationships with donors, and a real-time campaign fundraising thermometer allows development directors and professional fundraisers to stay connected and stay in tune with what's happening in real time, unlike ever before. A couple of tips here that we have found to be very effective for some of our customers is to actually take this thermometer, which is just a web-based URL, and put it up on screens in your office. Link it on your website. Use it as a way to constantly be engaging your staff, your leadership, your donors. If you happen to be on radio or TV or at a live event, you can have people make donations and then tell them that they'll see their name up on screen. It is amazing how many people donate because they want to see their name in lights. A pro tip here is actually monitor your campaign progress in real time and make adjustments to suggested gift sizes, fundraiser instructions, and donor communications. What I mean by suggested gift sizes is here you can see the examples of $249, $49, $996, $100. It's actually amazing. Most people, it's right about 75% of all the donations you receive will be the second option in the suggested donation amounts. So, for example, in this case, if the second option were to be raised from $249 to $289, you actually can incrementally increase revenues for your campaign, helping you reach your goal faster, just by tweaking and adjusting your suggested donation amounts. Next essential is your donation page. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for your donation page to be branded to reinforce your campaign, to be mobile friendly, to be secure, to have minimal fields, to have clear suggested and strategic donation amounts, and then to have easy recurring gift options. A statistic that's not here on screen that I'll share with you is when you reduce your fields on your form, on your donation form from 11 to 4, you actually increase donations increase submissions on your donation page 140%. This is because there is a perception that this is going to take me less time, this is going to be easier, and it's not going to be burdensome for me to complete a donation. A couple of things I want to point out here. Notice how at the top there's just a very clear call to action. This is exactly what your donation is going to do. It's very important. Notice the second suggested donation amount is selected by default. Again, roughly 75% of your donors are going to select whatever's in that box. You see the very easy one-time, monthly, quarterly, annual gift options. Those are very, very important. People that set up recurring gifts give twice as much annually as those who give one time. And then I want to point out a new MobileCause feature, which is incredibly powerful, and some of our customers have been using to literally save tens of thousands of dollars. Is we added this little box below the credit card information that is, do you wish to add the credit card processing fee of 2.5%. And if they don't uncheck that, then you see here it automatically adds that 2.5%. It increases the donation amount, in this case, to $255.25. And that is actually a way for you to cover all the credit card processing fees for that donation. And because MobileCause doesn't charge transaction fees on any donations, essentially you are getting that money free and clear. 100% of the dollars given go directly to the cause. My pro tip here is just something to consider. Millennials, specifically donors aged of 22 to 37, they prefer to give on their smartphone. Gen X, age 38 to 53, prefer to give on a computer or tablet. And baby boomers, age 54 to 79, they will give online, but they do appreciate the option to give cash or checks. Again, it's the most important component of your fundraising campaign in terms of collecting revenues, is making it extremely easy for people to give. All right. Email receipts and text message confirmations. This is an incredibly important component that so many nonprofits neglect, and it's so easy to do. You've all heard this before, that the best thing you can do to strengthen your fundraising strategy is to thank people. And so one of the ways that we encourage our customers to do this at MobileCause is when somebody completes that donation, they should receive two things. They should receive an SMS confirmation as well as a customized email with a link to their tax receipt. And so if you noticed on the form I had on the previous page, I had email for tax receipt and SMS or mobile for text notification as the fields. And they weren't required, but if people put them in, then they would essentially receive these two automatically sent to them. And I say here, use that function as a reason for people to give you their email and give you their mobile number, which you can use to then cultivate your donor database. I'm going to point out a couple of things here. That the SMS message actually fires in real time. So if you make a donation, within just a few seconds, you might immediately get that reinforcement that the donation has gone directly, in this case, to Finding Balance. And then if you look closely at that email, this is an incredibly powerful tool. So first thing, of course, you want to do is just thank them for their donation. And then what we recommend is that you actually you record a video. It could be a staff person, it could be your development director, it could be a volunteer or program recipient that's specifically just in 15 seconds or so thanking the person for making the donation and just reinforcing how important that gift is and what that gift is going to do. Secondarily, it's so important to make it easy for people to follow you on social media. If your board hasn't started asking for social media following counts, they will soon, and so it's really important that you reinforce the importance of people following you on the social media channel that they prefer, in this case Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, so that they can see their donations at work in real time. And then lastly, you see the green button there that says download PDF. This should be set up as an official tax receipt that your organization doesn't have to worry about, that's already been processed and organized, that the donor can use when it comes time to do their taxes and to claim that deduction. All right, your sign-up page. This is very important. Your sign-up page, this is the page in which people can become a fundraiser. So here you see on the screen an example from findingbalance.com. Our best practice is actually to take the sign-up form and put it on your website and link it to a big button that says Become a Fundraiser. When people click on it, all from within your website, they can then easily enter their first name, their last name, their mobile number, their email, and click Become a Fundraiser, and they'll immediately receive a text message and an email that they click a link, and then they proceed to upload a photo, a personal message, as well as their goal. The setup process should only take no more than a couple of minutes and should empower everybody that wants to do more than just give to your organization to create their own page. I'll say this as a benchmark, something that I've been thinking about, is how incredible would it be that everybody that is passionate about your org one time a year did a crowdfunding campaign for you, oh, it would be an incredible precedent to set, and you would see exponential growth in your cause. Next tip, next essential. All right, fundraiser pages. So in this case, Crystal Smith for Finding Balance just did what I said, and she put in her name and her goal. Her name, Crystal Smith. Her goal, her goal was $9,960, which in this case scholarships 40 young girls to go to the Hungry for Hope conference. You can see here that she's reached her goal. When she sends her link out to her friends and family, this is the page they go to that you see on the left, what they see if they're on a PC, and you see in the smartphone what they see if they're on their mobile device. And again, Crystal has two ways of promoting her page. She can forward her link, share it on social media, share it on email, share it via text people, tell people to click the link to support her campaign, or she can, if she's in person, she can have people text her keyword, which in this example is LiveFree3 to 71777, and then they will receive a text message back with a link to donate. Again, you see here, video is so incredibly important. 4 times the amount of donations are raised when crowdfunding campaigns have video on them. And one thing I'll point out is that you see the social media icons, Facebook, Twitter, email, and then we also have an SMS icon. When those are clicked, it should immediately pre-populate a post or an email or a text message, so that all the fundraiser has to do is literally just hit send, and they've promoted their page. My pro tip here is the more training, instructions, updates that you provide, sample posts, emails, text messages, letters. Again, this is just reinforcing what Salvador and Farra have been saying and saying and saying. The better your pages in your campaign will perform. Final essential, real-time communication. If you don't know, nonprofits have this special opportunity to send text messages to their donors and constituents. What this means is you can literally upload lists of phone numbers that you already have and start sending text messages. And as you can see here, there's a message from Constance Rose to her fundraisers that says, "Your determination to reach your fundraising goal will bring freedom to young women," with her name. And then one of the cool things that's actually just happened in the Apple and Android smartphone operating systems is now when you put a video link at the top of your or any link for that matter, but in this case a Vimeo link, a Vimeo video link at the top of your text message, it actually dynamically appears in the text message box. And so you can see the power of this. You could send text messages to your donor database at large, your team captains, your fundraisers, people that are attending your events. The sky is the limit. But the thing that your nonprofit needs to consider is, and you should ask yourself is, do you want to communicate with your donors in real time? Because unlike email and social media posts and other forms of communication, your subscriber, 98% of your subscribers will see your text messages within 90% of your subscribers will see your text message within 3 minutes, and 98% will ultimately see and read your message. If you don't understand how keywords work, once anyone texts any of your keywords, in this case Live Free, what that does in the MobileCause system is it actually subscribes them to receive ongoing text messages from your organization. So for example, if you text Live Free to 71777 or any variation of that keyword, which is owned by Finding Balance, then all of those people who text that word are subscribed to receive messages. Again, my pro tip here, organize all your mobile number lists so that you can send segmented messages. So very specific personal messages to donors, fundraisers, and team leaders throughout your campaign. And a question that I always get asked is, well, how many messages should our nonprofit send? And the answer is, however many you've told them you're going to send them. So if you're going to send them a daily update on your crowdfunding campaign, send them a daily update. If you're going to send them a monthly update with a link to a newsletter, then send them a monthly update. And always just ensure to people that if they ever want to stop receiving text messages, all they have to do is reply stop to unsubscribe. And then if they ever want to get back on a list, all they have to do is text one of your keywords again. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to start our question and answers section.
Terrific, Jeremy. And again, thanks everyone for attending. We've got a lot of great questions. First up to Jeremy. As we've seen a lot, in the previous webinars, we get a lot of questions around, applicability of sort of this text to give or in crowdfunding with specific age groups. What are your thoughts sort of on those that are feel like, well, this is only really applicable to the younger generations? What have you seen in terms of how this, even mobile text to give and crowdfunding specifically works with, all generations?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's very fundamental to modern digital fundraising. That being said, I'll answer both of those questions in order. Keywords, specifically text-to keywords, should really only be used when you're at a live event or when you're on television and radio. I mean, there's lots of ways you can use them, but those are the best. And essentially, all you're doing is you're making it as easy as possible for people to donate in the moment. So, for example, if I just say go to a website to give, I will receive half as many donations if I were to say text a keyword to give or go to my website. And we see that again and again and again, that at live events and on television and radio, nonprofits collect twice as many donations when they strengthen their call to action with a keyword. The second question is about crowdfunding and demographics. Believe it or not, baby boomers are probably the most excited about technology and giving differently, even though they have the hardest time getting set up and using social media, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, we actually see a huge balance of participation with millennials, Generation X, and baby boomers. Again, I would say that the most important component of setting up your campaign is making it really easy on a smartphone, tablet, or PC, and then just doing a great job training those people in the channels that they read on a daily basis, what they need to do throughout their campaign to ensure they reach their goal.
Terrific. And now how about to you, Salvador? What's your take on this? Obviously you yourself are among the younger generation, but what have you seen in all your work in crowdfunding in terms of advising those that might have a slightly older donor base?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And, we talk a lot about social media, but also one of the huge channels for donations is email. And baby boomers are very familiar with email. I mean, we use email for a lot of our work, and email might seem more antiquated, but it's actually one of the primary channels in terms of not only getting donations, but in the for-profit world, selling products. So you might need to tailor your approach. Not saying to do one approach for everyone. If your donor base is more, of an older generation, you're going to have to tailor your strategy a little bit more. Maybe you're going to have to do a bit more hand-holding when it comes to technology. Maybe you're going to focus more on email rather than on social media. It might be a little bit more in-person events to sort of rally up interest in your cause. If it is for maybe younger or Generation X, then you can engage in more of these activities that we've been talking about. You really just have to know who these people are that are passionate about your cause. And this obviously varies from cause to cause. I know a lot of baby boomers who are very savvy with technology on Facebook, et cetera. So I think it just comes down to your own donor base and understanding who they are, where they get their information, and being just very realistic about that.
Right. Yeah, great. And then to you, Farra, here's a question around, overall, in terms of creating your first crowdfunding campaign in general. Is it, better to leverage a well-known anchor like Giving Tuesday, or, do you suggest that it's certainly quite viable to not have to tie your own campaign to something like that? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I saw that question. Actually had a quick response to the person who asked, and I think I'm glad you brought it up. My short answer is do both. I do think hopping onto big Giving Day campaigns like Giving Tuesday, or a lot of states have their own Giving Day, or if you're part of a university, sometimes they declare a Giving Day. I think tying it to something that people in the world know is a great way to start, to create a 24-hour campaign just tied to Giving Tuesday around what you're trying to do is a great way to get into crowdfunding. For peer-to-peer, though, which is really where we're trying to get our champions to solicit other donors and their friends to give to the cause, I think it's better to tie it into something that is meaningful to your organization. Again, doing Giving Tuesday or something like that as a first step is great, but I'd encourage you to think about seeing if you can start your own campaign to something that is, again, meaningful to your organization, whether it's an anniversary, an event coming up, something that's happening in the world, like let's say Mother's Day, which is coming up soon, and you're an organization that works with women and girls, something that is tied to what you do and tied to what people care about. The whole thing is making sure that what you're doing is relevant and will resonate with the donors you're asking to support you, whether that's create pages or make a gift to a campaign.
Great answer. And now, back to you real quick, Salvador. There's a question around, creating a blog, right? And, someone asked about creating a blog and sort of what should the focus of that be, in terms of supporting them. I'm trying to find the exact wording of their question so I can make sure I answer, ask it to you properly. Yeah, so the idea is in creating a blog for a nonprofit, should it be sort of from your viewpoint as a professional, or really more, geared towards stories of impact? What are your thoughts around, that type of thing?
So the function of a blog is what's called content marketing. And content marketing is basically getting your foot in the door and beginning a relationship with a prospective donor or with a prospective customer. They read your content. If they like it, maybe they subscribe to your email newsletter, or they follow you on Twitter or Facebook, etc. I think that one of the things that many nonprofits sort of do is they'll treat their organization as this professional kind of like faceless organization, because that's how they were taught. They were taught in school, maybe in business school or whatever, to be very professional with their communications. But actually, what people tend to connect with are other human beings. So if you're just adding a little bit of personality, and even just writing a little bit of the blog, maybe before you share someone else's story or sharing some other kind of link, et cetera, that's really going to help people to say, oh, this isn't just some big nonprofit. This is Amy, who writes this once a week blog sharing some of the stories of people they're impacting, or it's Amy talking about, what the organization did this past month. It's someone that they can connect to. So I think that's really important. But the other thing I would say is, I think online video is just really something that people should be paying far more attention to even now than blogging. And that's why I've gotten into YouTube, et cetera, doing a Facebook live stream, doing YouTube live, just putting a video out on Facebook. That's a really great way to create that same feeling, like people are getting to know you, and also you're sharing these stories, et cetera. So if you're not comfortable writing or doing a blog or adding your own thoughts, you can also do video or just a very easy Facebook Live to generate that same feeling, like people are getting to know you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And all right, so I'm going to bounce back to Jeremy real quick, because there have been a couple of questions I think that sort of are combined, and in terms of what's the difference essentially between crowdfunding on Indiegogo? What's the difference between crowdfunding on GoFundMe? And I think it's also then the follow-up to all of that is, somebody asked, where can I find all of these templates that you were showing? And I think it's warrants being clear about what all of it is available in MobileCause, and that all of this is available completely turnkey. So maybe you want to address sort of those three in sort of one answer.
Yeah. So the first question is, how does MobileCause compare to traditional crowdfunding software, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, et cetera? The main difference is that MobileCause doesn't charge transaction fees, and if you have a MobileCause account, you can run as many crowdfunding campaigns and have as many fundraisers as you want, and you don't pay a transaction fee, and when donations are collected, they actually are direct deposited into your bank account in real time. You also have a lot of other really cool keyword text messaging, communication, team functionality that a lot of other softwares don't have. The second question related to the first question is, do I get all this? The answer is yes. MobileCause is a software as a service. It's a full platform. Everything that you saw on in my section of today's webinar, as well as all our other digital solutions, are all packaged up into one bundle, in which once you sign up for a MobileCause account, you get access to all of our solutions, including crowdfunding, event fundraising, mobile communication, online forms, petitions, et cetera, et cetera.
And again, I think it bears repeating, the idea that we have a whole customer service, customer success team, and that's what they do, right? They work specifically with you, each of you, to set up and ensure and even advise on strategy about now how to, drive engagement with that crowdfunding that you set up through MobileCause. I think the other question that somebody, is also about sort of, reporting and taxes and all of that good stuff. So that's the other piece that's 100% included. Correct, Jeremy? You want to talk a little bit about just that tiny piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So somebody donates on any one of your donation pages or crowdfunders donation pages, those monies are direct deposited into your organization's bank account. Those donors are automatically receipted with a link to their official tax receipt, and that all can be set up and coordinated right within your MobileCause account.
Fantastic. And now let's go back to some of the core of crowdfunding itself. I think that I'd like to ask for Farra is, what is all of this? What do you think is the most important thing in terms of, planning, executing, and optimizing a crowdfunding campaign? What's the one or two things that we really need to make sure that we do? What's the most important thing you've seen that you'd really want to recommend and highlight to everyone listening today?
I'm glad you gave me two. I would say that the first is the case for giving. Really making sure that you've thought about why somebody should donate and make sure it sort of resonates to them. It should be something that your mission, but they care about, and it should be clear why it matters, why now. The second thing I would say is just sort of, I think Jeremy said the phrase real-time communication, not just to sort of set it and forget it with the campaign, but keep it alive, keep talking about it, send out updates, encourage the champions themselves, thank donors and ask them to share it, and even invite them to create a page while it's going on. So I would say make sure it's compelling and make sure you are doing a great job of engaging people while the campaign is happening, and also when it ends, and reporting back and letting people know what happened.
Fantastic. And how about to you? Same question to you, Salvador. What are your thoughts from your perspective?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what do you think are the one or two most important things that people listening today should kind of take away from today on, what's critical that they do and keep in mind to create a successful crowdfunding campaign?
I think the number one thing that people need to keep in mind is the fact that people are giving money for selfish reasons. And every time I say that, it's a little bit controversial, and it's kind of a little bit of a strange feeling, but the reason that people give money is because they feel good about helping a particular cause, or because they feel good about themselves because they are a good person. So you have to come from the mindset of putting yourself in their shoes and understanding who these people are and why they're connecting with this cause, and how can you encourage them to feel those emotions. So a very simple example is, if someone gives you money and you don't thank them, you don't update them with how that money impacted this core demographic or whatever, you yourself might know that, wow, this incredible thing happened because we got all this money that was raised, or I feel so grateful that this person was giving me money. They don't know that. So you have to communicate that to them. You have to thank them. You have to share these stories with them. You have to show how their donation impacted whatever it is this project is. And then they also have the delight of feeling like a great person. They have the delight of feeling like their contribution mattered. they are able to soak in these amazing stories that resulted as a result of this crowdfunding campaign. So you have to allow people to feel the things that they want to feel, and that's why they give money. So that's the number one. The second number one, just more in tactical, I'd say, is looking at your donor base and making sure that you're using the right effective channels to get people to take action. If I'm personally trying to get people to take action, maybe enroll in an online course or something like that, I'm using email. In terms of fundraisers, if it's a live event, you obviously should be doing text to donate. If you're doing a online campaign, you have to be aware of the channels where people are taking action. I think that's just a really big one, and not leaving it up to chance. A lot of nonprofits will just blast out the link like once and then just assume everyone saw it on their Facebook page. Well, we all know Facebook's ranking algorithm is really strange. Not everyone sees it. So making sure that you find excuses to share your campaign throughout the fundraiser, and emailing people multiple times, and doing multiple shares on different social sites. I think that's another really big one that people are afraid they sort of miss out on, because they're afraid of spamming people, whereas it is actually solicited. People follow you for a reason. People subscribe to your email list for a reason. They want to receive messages from you.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much for that final insight, Salvador. We've reached the end of our time today, everybody. I did want to provide opportunity. Again, I would encourage all of you to, reach out to Salvador, connect with him at CrowdCrux. Same with Farra. Both of them are terrific resources. In addition, of course, MobileCause, which provides end-to-end digital fundraising and communication software for a new generation of donors. You can speak directly to an expert about implementing the MobileCause software platform for your organization. You can call us directly at 888-661-8804, or go to mobilecause.com/free-consultation. I'd encourage all of you to do so, even if you just have, really general questions, you're really kind of starting off, or whether you're deep into a crowdfunding campaign and looking to, really extend your capabilities. The team is fantastic. We've worked with dozens and dozens of nonprofits across numerous crowdfunding campaigns, raising millions of dollars for good causes. So I'd encourage all of you to continue to broaden your skill set and look for new ways to raise funds for your organization. And please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Again, mobilecause.com/free-consultation. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Look out for our next upcoming webinars. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. And yes, we will be sending all of you a link to the recorded version of today's webinar along with the slides. And we'll follow up with you all as well. So thanks again to everyone, and have a great day.